Hey, everyone. Imagine this, it's a bright, sunny Tuesday morning. The birds are chirping, the sky is blue, and I'm just sitting in my little home office. My name's Sam, and I'm what you'd call a regular guy. I've got a cup of coffee in my hand, steam swirling up from it, and I'm feeling pretty good. To all my neighbors, I'm just the quiet dude who moved into the house down the street a few months ago. They see me wave hello sometimes, maybe grab the mail, but that's it. They think I'm nobody special. Just some guy living a boring life. But oh boy, were they wrong. They had no clue what was going on behind my closed curtains. Something big was brewing, and I was right in the middle of it. See, I wasn't just sitting there sipping coffee and typing boring emails like they thought. Nope. I was working on something huge. Something secret. Something that would flip everything upside down for one very nosy person in our neighborhood. My neighbors didn't know it yet, but I had a plan, a big one. And someone was about to find out the hard way that I'm not as quiet or simple as they thought. This wasn't just about me sitting at a desk. This was about me being sneaky, smart, and ready to surprise everyone. But let's not spill all the beans just yet. We've got a wild story to tell, and it's only just starting. Picture my little office for a second. It's not fancy. Just a small room with a desk, a chair, and a window that looks out onto the street. There's a tiny sign on my door that says Sam's office, but it's so small you'd barely notice it unless you were looking hard. I've got my computer on, a notebook full of scribbles, and that warm coffee keeping me company. Outside, the neighborhood looks peaceful. Kids ride their bikes, dogs bark at squirrels, and the mailman waves as he drops off letters. It's the kind of place where nothing crazy ever happens, at least, that's what everyone thinks. But behind my curtains, I was cooking up something they'd never expect. Now, let me ask you something before we go any further. Have you ever met someone who judged you before they even knew you? Like, they took one look at you and decided they had you all figured out? Maybe they thought you were shy, or weak, or not important. Well, this story has one of those people. Her name's Linda, and she's about to wish she'd never messed with me. So stick around, because this is going to get good and she's going to regret every single second of it. Let's set the scene a little more. I moved into this neighborhood about 3 months ago. It's one of those places with neat little houses, green lawns, and rules about everything. You know, like you can't paint your mailbox purple or leave your trash cans out too long. Everyone's nice enough, I guess, but they don't really talk to me much. I keep to myself, and that's how I like it. I wave when I see them, maybe say hi if I'm walking to my car, but mostly I'm just the guy who stays quiet. The guy who doesn't make trouble. The guy who blends in. But blending in was part of my plan. I didn't want anyone paying too much attention, not yet. My home office is where it all happens. It's my little hideout. I've got a comfy chair that spins, a desk I found at a garage sale, and a big cup that says "World's Okayest Worker" on it. My computer hums quietly, and I've got papers stacked up with notes only I can understand. To anyone peeking in, it might look like I'm just doing regular work, maybe paying bills or writing emails. But that's not what's going on. I'm digging. I'm watching. I'm figuring things out. And what I'm figuring out? It's big. Bigger than anyone in this sleepy neighborhood could guess. The thing is, I like being the quiet guy. It's like a superpower. People don't expect much from you when you don't talk a lot. They don't think you're up to anything sneaky or smart. They just go about their day, leaving you alone. And that's perfect for me. Because while they're busy ignoring me, I'm busy noticing them. Especially Linda. She's the one who's going to make the story juicy. She's the one who thinks she's the boss of everything. And she's the one who's about to get a big surprise. Let's talk about Linda for a second. She's the kind of person who walks around like she owns the whole street. She's got short hair, always wears sunglasses on her head, and carries a clipboard like it's a crown. She's the head of the HOA, that's the group that makes all the rules for the neighborhood. If your grass is too tall, Linda's there with a frown. If your car's parked a little crooked, Linda's writing you a note. She loves being in charge, and she loves telling people what to do. And me? She decided I was her next target the day I moved in. It started small. She'd walk by my house, squinting at my little office sign. "This isn't allowed," she'd mutter, loud enough for me to hear through the window. I'd just smile and wave, pretending I didn't care. But I did care. Not about her rules, about what she didn't know. See, Linda thought she had me pegged. She thought I was just some lazy guy breaking her precious rules. She judged me without even asking who I was or what I was doing. And that was her first mistake. So there I was, that sunny Tuesday morning, sipping my coffee and watching the world go by. The neighborhood was buzzing along like always, and Linda was probably out there somewhere, planning her next complaint. But me? I was ready. I'd been ready for weeks. My notebook was full, my plan was set, and something huge was about to happen. Linda had no idea what was coming. She thought she was the hunter, chasing me down with her silly rules. But she didn't know she was the one being hunted. Here's the fun part, I wasn't just sitting there for no reason. I wasn't just some guy with a desk and a computer. I had a secret. A big, sneaky, awesome secret. And it wasn't about my office or my coffee or my quiet little life. It was about Linda. It was about what she was hiding. Because while she was busy judging me, I was busy finding out the truth. And trust me, it's a truth she never wanted anyone to know. So, what do you think so far? Are you ready to see what happens next? Because this story's about to get wild. Linda's about to learn a lesson, and I'm about to show everyone that the quiet guy isn't so quiet after all. Stick with me, because this is just the beginning and it's going to be a ride you won't forget. Oh, and one more thing, have you ever had a Linda in your life? Someone who thought they knew everything about you but got it all wrong? Let me know, because this story's for anyone who's ever been underestimated. Okay, let's talk about Linda. She's the big troublemaker in this story, and trust me, she's a handful. Linda is the queen of our neighborhood HOA. That's the group that makes all the rules around here. I like to call her Karen on patrol because she's always marching around, acting like she's the boss of everyone. She's the kind of person who'd pull out a ruler and measure your grass just to make sure it's not a tiny bit too long. If it's even half an inch over her rules, boom, you're getting a nasty note stuck to your door. She loves being in charge, and she loves picking on people. And guess who she decided to pick on from the very first day I moved in? Me, Sam. See, Linda didn't like my home office one bit. The second she saw that little sign on my door that says Sam's office, her face turned all sour. She'd stomp up to my house, her sunglasses perched on her head like a crown, and snap at me. "This isn't a business zone," she'd say, pointing her finger like I'd done something terrible. To her, my little office was the worst thing ever. She thought I was breaking all her precious rules just by sitting at my desk with my coffee. From day one, she made it her mission to get me in trouble. She didn't even care who I was, she just decided I was a problem. Linda wasn't quiet about it either. Oh no, she was loud and proud. She'd bang on my door so hard the windows would shake. "Rules are rules, Sam," she'd yell, holding up her clipboard like it was some kind of weapon. "This neighborhood has standards, and you're ruining them." I could hear her voice echoing down the street, and I bet the neighbors could too. She'd stand there, hands on her hips, glaring at me through my window. Sometimes she'd even write me notes, mean ones. They'd say stuff like, "Take that sign down or else, or you're in big trouble now." She thought she could scare me with her big words and her angry face. But here's the thing, I didn't get scared. Not even a little. When Linda banged on my door or shouted at me, I'd just smile and nod. "Okay, Linda," I'd say, nice and calm. I'd wave at her like nothing was wrong, even though she was steaming mad. She'd huff and puff, her face turning red, and then storm off to complain to someone else. She thought I was weak because I didn't yell back. She thought I was just some quiet guy who'd give up and do whatever she wanted. But she was so wrong. I wasn't scared of her clipboard or her loud mouth. I had something way bigger going on, and she didn't have a clue. While Linda was busy bossing me around, I was busy with my own plan. I had bigger fish to fry, way bigger than her silly rules about my office. She thought she was the one in control, chasing me down with her complaints. But guess what? She was about to get caught in my net. Yep, I was sneaky, and I was smart. Every time she came to my door, every time she yelled, I just kept smiling. Not because I was afraid, but because I knew something she didn't. I was watching her, and I was waiting. She had no idea what was coming her way. Let's paint a picture of Linda for a minute. She's not tall, But she acts like she's 10 feet high. She's got short hair that's always perfect, and she wears these big sunglasses on her head even when it's cloudy. She carries that clipboard everywhere, scribbling notes about everyone's yards and houses. She walks around in bright shirts and sneakers, like she's ready to catch you breaking a rule at any second. If your dog barks too loud, Linda's there. If your trash can sits out an extra hour, Linda's writing it down. She's like a hawk, always watching, always ready to swoop in and make a fuss. With me, though, she was extra picky. That little office of mine drove her nuts. She'd stand on my porch, tapping her foot, and say things like, "This isn't how we do things here, Sam." She'd tell me I was ruining the neighborhood, like my tiny sign was the end of the world. One time, she even said, "You think you're so smart, working from home? Well, I'm going to fix that." I just looked at her, sipping my coffee, and said, "Sure, Linda. Whatever you say." She didn't like that. Not one bit. She wanted me to argue, to get mad, to give her a fight. But I didn't. I stayed cool as a cucumber, and it made her even angrier. The truth is, I wasn't worried about Linda's rules. I didn't care about her clipboard or her threats. I let her think she was winning because it kept her busy. While she was out there measuring grass and writing notes, I was in my office, working on something way more important. Something that would turn her whole world upside down. She thought she was the hunter, chasing me like a cat after a mouse. But I was the one setting the trap, and she was walking right into it, step by step. Every time Linda came by, I'd peek out my window and watch her. She'd pace back and forth, muttering to herself, her clipboard flapping in her hand. Sometimes she'd talk to the other neighbors, pointing at my house like I was some big bad guy. "He's breaking the rules," she'd say, loud enough for me to hear. "We can't let this go on." The neighbors would nod or shrug, not really caring as much as she did. But Linda? She cared a lot. Too much. And that was her mistake. She was so busy trying to catch me that she didn't see what I was doing right under her nose. I'd sit at my desk, pretending to type boring stuff, but my mind was racing. Linda thought she knew me. She thought I was just some guy who didn't belong. She judged me from the start, and she never stopped to ask why I was so calm. Why I didn't fight back. Why I just smiled when she got mad. She didn't know I had a secret. A big one. And that secret was all about her. She was about to find out that picking on me was the worst idea she ever had. So there we were, Linda, the loud HOA queen, and me, the quiet guy with a plan. She thought she had the power, but I was the one pulling the strings. Every bang on my door, every nasty note, just made me more sure of what I had to do. She was walking right into trouble, and she didn't even know it. The tension was building, like a storm getting ready to break. And trust me, when it broke, it was going to be a doozy. Stick around, because Linda's about to learn a lesson she'll never forget. Weeks went by, and things started heating up. Linda, the HOA queen, wasn't slowing down. She was getting bolder every single day. She'd march right up my driveway like she owned the place, her sneakers stomping on the pavement. In her hand? A phone, snapping pictures of my illegal office sign. Now, let me tell you, that sign wasn't even a big deal. It was just a tiny little plaque on my door that said Sam's office in small letters. You'd have to squint to even read it. But to Linda, it was like a giant flashing light screaming trouble. She'd stand there, clicking away with her camera, muttering stuff like, "This is proof. Proof he's breaking the rules." One day, she took it even further. I came home and found a note taped to my door. It was written in her big, messy handwriting, and it said, "I'm calling the city on you." She'd underlined city 3 times, like that was supposed to scare me. I just stood there, holding the note, and peeked out my window. There she was, across the street, scribbling more complaints on her clipboard. I couldn't help it. I smirked. Yep, I grinned like a sneaky cat, because Linda had no idea what was really going on. She thought she was winning, but I was the one with the upper hand. See, while Linda was busy taking pictures and writing her mean little notes, I was doing something way sneakier. I'd watch her through my window, sipping my coffee, acting like everything was normal. But it wasn't normal. I wasn't just some random guy working from home, tapping away at boring stuff. Nope. I'd been quietly digging into her life. That's right, Linda wasn't the only one keeping track of things. I was watching her too, and I was way better at it than she'd ever guess. Every time Linda ran one of her HOA meetings, I was paying attention. Those meetings were where she'd boss everyone around, telling them what they could and couldn't do. She'd sit at the front of the room, banging her clipboard on the table, saying stuff like, "We need order," or "Pay your fines." I didn't go to the meetings myself, I kept my distance, but I had ways of finding out what happened. Neighbors would talk, and I'd listen. Sometimes I'd even peek at the papers she left lying around when she wasn't looking. And every time she slapped a fine on someone, like $50 for a messy yard or $20 for a loud dog, I wrote it down in my notebook. That notebook? It was my secret weapon. It wasn't full of boring work stuff like Linda thought. It was full of her secrets. Page after page, I was collecting little bits of info. Every meeting she ran, every fine she gave out, every time she yelled at someone, I kept track of it all. And trust me, I'd found some juicy stuff. Stuff she'd never want anyone to see. Stuff that would make her face turn redder than a tomato if it ever got out. But I didn't let on. I didn't say a word. I just kept smiling, kept nodding, kept acting like the quiet guy she thought I was. Linda didn't suspect a thing. She'd march up to my house, all puffed up and proud, thinking she was so smart. One time, she stood right in my yard, waving her phone at me through the window. "I've got you now, Sam," she shouted. "These pictures are going straight to the city." I just waved back, nice and friendly, like I didn't care. She didn't know I was laughing inside. She didn't know that every time she came by, she was giving me more to work with. Every picture she took, every note she wrote, just made my plan stronger. The days turned into weeks, and Linda kept pushing. She'd walk by my house every chance she got, glaring at that tiny sign like it was her worst enemy. Sometimes she'd bring her clipboard and write stuff down right in front of me, muttering under her breath. "No office allowed," she'd say, "or he's going to learn." I'd watch her from my desk, pretending to type, but really I was adding more notes to my collection. She thought she was building a case against me, but I was building something way bigger, a case against her. Here's the fun part, I wasn't scared of her calling the city. Not one bit. Let her call whoever she wanted. Because what she didn't know was that I'd already found the real dirt. See, all those fines she was collecting? All that money people were paying to the HOA? I started noticing something funny. The neighborhood wasn't getting any better. The sidewalks were still cracked, the park benches were still wobbly, and the street lights flickered half the time. So where was all that money going? That's what I was digging into, and oh boy, did I find some answers. I started small. I'd ask neighbors little questions, like, "Hey, did Linda ever fix that pothole she promised?" They'd shrug and say, "Nope." I'd nod and write it down. Then I'd look at old HOA papers, stuff Linda didn't think anyone cared about. Papers that showed how much money came in and how much was supposed to go out. And guess what? The numbers didn't add up. Not even close. Hundreds of dollars were missing, sometimes thousands. And every time I found a clue, I'd smirk a little more. Linda was in deep trouble, and she didn't even know it. One afternoon, I saw her talking to a neighbor down the street. She was waving her arms, probably complaining about me again. I leaned back in my chair, watching her through the curtains, and flipped open my notebook. There it was, all the proof I'd been collecting. Dates, amounts, little sneaky things she'd done. She thought she was so clever, bossing everyone around, but I was the clever one. I'd been quiet, sure, but I'd been busy. And every step Linda took toward me just brought her closer to the big surprise I had waiting. She kept coming by, bolder and louder every time. One day, she even knocked on my door again, holding up her phone like it was a prize. "I've got 10 pictures now," she bragged. "You're done for, Sam." I opened the door, smiled, and said, "That's nice, Linda. Good luck with that." She glared at me, her eyes narrowing, but she didn't know what I knew. She didn't know I'd already figured out her game. She didn't know I was holding all the cards. Okay, get ready, because this is the big moment, the day everything flipped upside down. It was just a regular morning, and I was sitting in my little home office like always. My coffee was warm, my computer was on, and I was minding my own business. Then, all of a sudden, I heard it wee-oh-oh, wee-oh-oh. Sirens. Loud ones, coming closer and closer. My heart skipped a beat, like it jumped right up into my throat. I peeked out my window, and there it was, a police car pulling up right in front of my house. My first thought: did Linda actually call the cops on me? Sure enough, there she was, Linda, the HOA queen, standing on the sidewalk with her arms crossed tight. She had that smirk on her face, the one she always got when she thought she'd won. She looked so proud, like she'd finally caught me breaking her silly rules. Two police officers stepped out of the car, big and serious, with shiny badges on their shirts. Linda didn't waste a second. She pointed right at my house, her finger stabbing the air, and shouted, "That's him. That's the guy. He's the one with the illegal office." She sounded so sure of herself, like I was some sneaky criminal mastermind she'd been chasing forever. I stood there behind my curtain, watching, thinking, oh boy, this is it. But here's where it gets really good. I was waiting for the cops to march up my steps, knock on my door, and ask me a million questions. I figured Linda had finally gotten her way. But that's not what happened. Not even close. The officers didn't come toward my house. Nope, they turned around and looked straight at her. One of them, a tall guy with a deep voice, said, "Linda Grayson." Her smirk froze. Her arms dropped a little. She blinked fast, like she wasn't sure she'd heard him right. Then the cop pulled out a pair of shiny silver handcuffs, and Linda's jaw dropped so low it practically hit the ground. I couldn't believe my eyes. I pushed my curtain a little more to the side, staring out at the scene. Linda's face went from smug to shocked in about 2 seconds flat. What?" she stammered, stepping back. "What's going on?" The cop didn't smile or laugh. He just held up those handcuffs and said, "Ma'am, you're under arrest." Under arrest? Linda. I had to rub my eyes to make sure I wasn't dreaming. She started waving her hands, her voice getting loud and squeaky. "No, no, no. You've got it all wrong. I called you about him." She pointed at my house again, her finger shaking now. But the cops didn't even glance my way. Here's the best part, the part I'd been waiting for. See, while Linda was busy harassing me, snapping pictures, and leaving her nasty notes, I'd been busy too. Really busy. I wasn't just sitting in my office twiddling my thumbs. I'd put together a nice little package, a big envelope full of proof, and sent it straight to the police. Proof of what, you ask? Proof that Linda had been sneaky for years. She'd been taking money, lots of money, from the HOA fees we all paid. Thousands of dollars. And where did it go? Not to fix the sidewalks or the park benches like it was supposed to. Nope, it went right into her pocket. Fancy vacations, a shiny new car, all that stuff she bragged about. She bought it with our money. I'd been collecting that proof for weeks. Every fine she made people pay, every dollar that went missing, I wrote it down. I found bank papers, sneaky emails, even pictures of her showing off her new stuff. It was all in my notebook, and I'd mailed it to the cops with a little note that said, "Check this out." I didn't tell anyone, not the neighbors, not Linda, not a soul. I just waited. And now, here we were, on the big day, and the cops had gotten my package. They'd read it. They'd seen it all. And they weren't here for me, they were here for her. The tall cop stepped closer to Linda, holding the handcuffs out. "You called us about him," he said, nodding toward my house, "but we were already coming for you." Linda's eyes went wide, like two big saucers. "What?" she yelled. "This is crazy. I didn't do anything." But the other cop, a shorter guy with a clipboard of his own, pulled out some papers. "We've got evidence," he said. "Bank records. Emails. Proof you've been stealing HOA money for years." Linda's mouth opened and closed like a fish, but no words came out. She was caught, and she knew it. I stepped away from the window and leaned against my desk, grinning like crazy. All those weeks of Linda banging on my door, yelling about my office, thinking she was so smart, it was all crashing down on her now. The neighbors started peeking out too. Curtains twitched, doors creaked open, and people whispered to each other. "What's happening?" someone said. "Is that Linda with the cops?" another asked. They were just as shocked as she was. "Linda, the queen of rules, the one who bossed everyone around, was in handcuffs. And me? I was the one who made it happen. The tall cop grabbed Linda's arm gently but firmly. "Let's go," he said. She tried to pull away, her voice getting louder. "This is a mistake. You can't do this. I'm in charge here." But the cops didn't listen. They started walking her toward the police car, her sneakers dragging on the ground. She kept looking back at my house, her face all red and angry. "This is your fault, Sam," she shouted. "You did this." I just waved at her through the window, nice and slow, with a big smile. "Yep, I did it, Linda. And it felt so good." The shorter cop opened the car door, and Linda had to duck to get in. She was still yelling, saying stuff like, "I'll fix this. You'll see." But the door slammed shut, and her voice turned into a muffled mess. The neighbors were all outside now, standing on their lawns, watching the police car. Some of them looked confused, some looked happy, and a few even clapped. Linda had bossed them around for years too, and now she was gone. The cops climbed into the front seat, started the engine, and just like that, they drove off. Linda was on her way to big trouble, and I was still here, sipping my coffee. I sat back in my chair, letting out a big breath. The sirens faded away, and the street got quiet again. My little office sign was still on the door, and my notebook was still full of proof. Linda thought she'd get me, but I got her instead. She'd been so busy pointing fingers at me that she didn't see the trap I'd set. And now everyone would know the truth about her. The big day had come, and the big reveal was done. Linda was caught, and I was the one who made it happen. What a twist, right? Stick around, because there's more to tell. Here's what happened after the big reveal. It was wild. Linda's face turned as white as a ghost when the cops started reading her rights. "You know, that thing they say on TV, you have the right to be quiet." She stood there, frozen, while the police told her she was in big trouble. Neighbors started peeking out their windows, pulling back curtains to see what was going on. Some even stepped onto their porches, whispering to each other. "Is that Linda?" they'd say. "What's happening?" Linda didn't like that one bit. She started talking fast, trying to wiggle out of it. "This is a mistake," she shrieked, her voice all high and squeaky. "You've got the wrong person." But the cops weren't buying it. They had all the proof they needed, and it was super strong, like a brick wall she couldn't knock down. They had bank records showing where the HOA money went. They had emails she'd sent, thinking no one would ever see them. And get this, they even had photos of her bragging about her extra cash to her friends. She'd been caught red-handed, and there was no way out. All that money she stole? It was clear as day now, and she couldn't talk her way free. Me. I just leaned against my door, cool as can be, sipping my coffee. I watched the whole thing like it was a show. The cops put Linda in the back of their car, her hands in those shiny handcuffs. She kept yelling, "Let me go. This isn't fair." But the car door shut, and off they went. I could see her face through the window, all mad and scared, as the police drove away. The street got quiet again, and I took a big sip of my coffee. It tasted extra good that day. Later on, something awesome happened. A few days after Linda got hauled off, I got a letter from the HOA. I thought, oh no, more trouble. But nope, it was good news. The letter said they were super thankful I'd uncovered Linda's scam. They'd looked at all the proof I sent the cops, and they couldn't believe it. For years, Linda had been taking money, and no one knew until I figured it out. The HOA people said, "Sam, you're amazing. Thank you." And here's the best part, they told me my little office sign wasn't a problem anymore. They waived that silly office violation nonsense Linda had been mad about. No more fines, no more rules against it, just freedom. The neighbors started treating me differently too. Before, they barely waved at me. Now, they smiled big when they saw me. Some even stopped by to say, "Good job, Sam." One guy said, "You're our hero." A hero. Me. The quiet guy with the tiny office was now the one everyone liked. Linda was gone, her scams were over, and justice was served. She'd bossed us all around for so long, but now she was the one in trouble. I'd won, and it felt great. Guess who's the new favorite in the neighborhood? Yep, that's me. Okay, Let's wrap this up with something to think about. Here's the big lesson from this crazy story: sometimes the loudest people, the ones who act like they're the boss of everything, are hiding the sneakiest, dirtiest secrets. Think about Linda. She was always yelling, pointing fingers, and telling everyone what to do. She thought she was so big and important, but she was the one doing wrong all along. And me? The quiet guy next door? I didn't say much, but I watched, I waited, and I brought her whole game crashing down. Pretty cool, right? This story shows something important. You don't have to be loud or pushy to win. Sometimes, being quiet and smart is the real power. People like Linda might judge you fast, thinking they've got you all figured out. They might laugh or boss you around because they don't think you're a big deal. But just like in the story, the truth has a funny way of sneaking up on them. It pops out when they least expect it, and suddenly, they're the ones who look silly. So next time someone looks at you and decides you're not important, remember me and Linda. Keep your head up, stay smart, and let the truth do the talking. I bet you've met someone like Linda before, someone who thought they knew everything about you but got it all wrong. Maybe it was a kid at school who acted all tough, or a grown-up who didn't give you a chance. What do you think? Have you ever had a Linda in your life? Someone who judged you too quick? I'd love to hear about it. Tell me in the comments below. Stories like this remind us that anyone can be a hero, even the quiet ones. You don't need to shout to be strong. You just need to be yourself and keep going. So that's it. This wild ride with Linda and me is over, but the big idea sticks around. The loud ones aren't always right, and the quiet ones aren't always weak. Next time you feel small or counted out, think of this story. You might just be the one to surprise everyone. Be brave, be smart, and watch how the truth comes out. It's always worth it in the end. What did you like best about this tale? Let me know, and let's keep the fun going.